Rev up your engines! Now this 4Runner has a weird problem. You might think, oh, it's so beautiful and shiny. It's got 150,000 miles on it. The guy drives a lot, right? But he gets in, the car does weird things. Sometimes he gets in, the turn signals will turn themselves on, the doors will lock and unlock themselves. So, the first thing I'm going to do is the most logical. We're going to test out the battery. See, if you don't know, this is what Toyota batteries are. It's distributed by Toyota Motor Sales. This is a completely Toyota battery. It's the original equipment. It came with the vehicle, which was made in 3 of 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. It's almost 5 years old. So let's get our trusty battery tester out. This thing is a Vidant BT200 battery tester. Doesn't cost anything, around 50 bucks, and it works quite well. I've been testing it out for months now, and I haven't found any problems with it. I could use my $900 one, but I find this works just as good because my $900 one is 10 years old. As time progresses, computer systems get smaller, and sometimes they even have better software. So we'll hook it up to the battery. Negative goes on negative, positive goes on positive. We're at 12 volts. It's a standard battery. Cold cranking, okay, cold cranking, and we got to see what the cranking amps are. Now this is a factory Toyota battery, which is 530 cranking amps. Most batteries will say right on here somewhere, but this doesn't. But I know it's 530. 530, enter, suggest replace. It's 100% state of charge, meaning it's fully charged because he drives it every day. But the state of health is only 31%. So, we're gonna have to get a battery. Now, doesn't that make me look like a genius? I figured it out in 2 seconds. Hey, but working on these cars for so long, I knew these things hardly ever break down. And the only reason they do squirrely stuff like the turn signals turn themselves on, lights flash on and off, is because the battery's too low and it makes the car go wonkers. Now, they wanted over 200 bucks in most auto parts stores, so I went to Rural King and I got an $89 battery that should be perfectly fine. Before we put it in, I've got my draw monitor. This thing, as you can see, we'll push the button. For 15 minutes, when you plug it in the OBD port there, leave the window rolled down, the key turned off, it will now supply the voltage so that when we disconnect the battery, we won't lose all the memory of the car. And that's a big deal with a modern car. So, we just loosen the positive negative terminal, get the clamp off. Needs a little bit more loosening here. That sucker's on there. Finally, we got it off. We got to loosen the other side a bit more. Get everything out of the way. Now we should be able to get the battery out. Here it comes. Unfortunately, Toyota doesn't put handles on there, so it's kind of a pain getting them out. I wish they'd put handles in them. Make them a lot better. See how easy the new one goes in? It's got a handle on it. Makes a lot more sense. Now, of course, you got to tighten down the battery terminal, hold down, and make sure the cables are on nice and tight. Now we'll see if it works. Now, realize that since I had my memory saver on it, it remembers everything, so I don't have to worry about all that crap having to be reset. Since the memory was on, it didn't erase any of the codes. So, as my father always said, just because you found one problem, don't think there aren't others. So, we're going to get a scan tool, we're going to scan this baby to see if there's any codes that had anything to do with the squirrely electronics. I doubt it, but what the heck. Plug this in, got everything set up there. Here we go, we're trying this one out. Got nice graphics on it. It is a Think Car 689 BT. It's already connecting. Cool graphics, I'll give him that. Now he does do an awful lot of driving. You can see he's already got 153,735 miles on it. See what shape it's in, health report. You can see no trouble caused, but just for kicks. Let's drive it. Start her up. Starts right up. Cool little graphics there. Car's in excellent shape for all that mileage. He really takes care of it. Got a decent backup camera. You can see we're kind of close to the edge, so I'll turn it a bit. There, now we're not near the lions anymore, falling off the edge. Away we go. Shifts like a dream, even though it's got 153,000 miles on it. It's one smooth vehicle. That's why I think Toyota made a big mistake making these 4Runners now only with the Turbo 4s here in the United States. I think it's a big mistake. People buy these vehicles because they like them. This guy said he wouldn't buy another one. He doesn't like Turbo 4s. Hey, it's got 153,000 miles on it, but that's nothing. I've seen these things with 500,000 on them, so it's got a lot of life left in it. It was the original battery after all. Brakes work perfectly fine. The tires are relatively aggressive, but they don't make that much noise. You can hear them. I mean, if you don't like this noise, you can get highway road tires that'll be a lot quieter if you don't plan on going off-road. Got on Tobacco Road. Again, nobody's been building houses there. Hey, that doesn't bode well for the economy. They tore those things down almost a year ago and they haven't built any houses there yet. Now, this is a big, heavy vehicle with a full frame. It's not a racing vehicle, but we'll do a little drag strip just to see. Hey, it started to peel out before the traction control kicked in and stopped it. Hey, 153,000 miles. Still runs like it did the day it came off the factory floor in Japan. And yes, this baby was made in Japan. It's the best ones they make. Absolutely everything on it still works. It looks like a brand new car. 2020, they were making these things solid as can be. Such a shame they're putting turbo 4s in them now. You want to pass somebody, you floor it. The speedometer picks up pretty quick. And you can hear it beeping because I went over the yellow line. Well, the first big lesson we learned is this. If your car's acting squirrely, your turn signals turn on by themselves, the doors lock and unlock themselves, sometimes the car won't start, won't crank, but then it starts. The absolute first thing to do is test the battery. And if you don't trust anybody, that battery tester I showed is like 50 bucks. It works quite fine because modern cars, everything's run by electricity. If your battery gets below a certain parameter of voltage, the car either won't start or weird things will happen. All kinds of crazy things can happen if you don't have enough battery voltage. And the number two lesson we learned is you don't have to go buy a $200, $250 battery. Came with the factory one, which it still had. I bought the equivalent battery at a Rural King. It was 89 bucks. It's a 5-year warranty on it. Hey, what the heck? The Toyota one lasted 5 years. If this one lasts 5 years, great. Just don't wait until you're stranded somewhere, because if you do, the guy selling you batteries, 200, 250, 300. I've seen them as high as 450 bucks. Plan ahead, get the battery yourself. You see how easy it is to change? And you don't have to buy a fancy memory saver like I have. That's a $200 tool because I use it for all kinds of stuff. You can get a memory saver at Amazon for like 15 bucks. Just plugs in the OBD and it's got a positive and negative. You just connect to any little battery to save the memory while you're working on a car, so you don't have to reset everything. Sometimes it's that easy, but if you went to a shop, they might send you a bill 10 miles long. All I really needed was a battery. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Well, here's how insane the car world has gotten, right? Manual transmissions, right? They're simple. You put them in gear. Well, it's not that simple to be able to build one these days because of all kinds of regulations. So building a modern manual transmission car is extremely complicated. For example, there are drive-by noise regulations. So if you have a relatively loud car and a manual transmission, computer keeps it from having too much noise from too much RPM. So if you, even though you're shifting it manually, it will lock you out from revving it too high because your car's making too much noise. That's how computerized cars these days are. Also, particle emissions. The pollution control. If you rev your car up too high, it's going to pollute more, and so it won't let you do it. So you can't just throw a manual transmission in a modern car because everything's controlled by the computer. And of course, in an automatic, electronically controlled automatic transmission, the computer can adjust everything so it's legal. And it won't make too noise and it won't put out too much pollution. And even what happens when you shift gears, that can affect the pollution. It might rev hang a little when you shift. The automatic transmission isn't going to do that because it's computer controlled. It'll keep it from doing that, but you won't. So there's a lot of reasons that they can't even make manual transmissions anymore. And it's not just because Americans are too lazy to shift cars themselves. Now it's become a gigantic bureaucratic rat's nest of, you got to meet all these requirements so you can't make a manual transmission because it'll pollute too much. It'll make too much noise. Who would have ever thought that would come to fruition? Robert Steffen says, I got an 85 Nissan 200 SX. My engine mounts have fallen. I can't get new ones. How can I find some? Help. Now, a place that I use is called datniceparts.com. And they have vintage and classic parts, especially for 80s. Go to a place like that. If they don't have it, look up some more. Ask them, who do you think would have motor mounts for it? Today, that's one advantage of Google. You can find just about anything, right? When I used to have old English motorcycles, finding parts was a stinker. Today, you just type it in and you'll find somebody on the planet that has them where you can get them from. Same thing with yours. That particular company seems to work okay, but there's billions of them out there and they're popping up all the time. So just Google. And in that case, you wouldn't Google 85 Nissan 200S. That's too specific. You would Google 1980s Nissan parts, and then you'll find a whole bunch of places and call them up, see who's got one. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.